Have you ever chased something with all your heart? A dream, a career? A perfect future. You work hard, you achieve your goals, and from the outside, everything looks great. But then, at the end of the day, you lay your head on the pillow and still feel empty. It's like you're running a race, but never reach the finish line. Winning, but not feeling satisfied. If you've ever felt like something's missing, even when your life seems fine, then this story is for you. Please, stay with me until the very end, because the lesson hidden inside might just change the way you see your own life forever. In a quiet little village, nestled between rolling green hills and crystal clear rivers, lived a young man named Daniel. Everyone in the village knew Daniel, and they all respected him. Why? Because Daniel was the kind of person who never backed down from a challenge. If a bridge was broken, Daniel was the first one there with his tools. If a neighbor was sick, he was the first to bring them soup. When others said, "It can't be done," Daniel would just smile and say, "Then I'll do it." To the world, Daniel's life was perfect. He was admired, trusted, and loved. But deep inside, he carried a secret sadness no one could see. Every night, Daniel would lie awake, staring at the wooden ceiling of his small house, and a single question would haunt him. Why do I feel like something's missing? He had everything a person could want. He had food on his table, friends who cared for him, and the respect of his entire community. Yet, a strange emptiness followed him everywhere, like a shadow he couldn't shake. It wasn't that Daniel was ungrateful. Not at all. He just felt as if a crucial chapter of his life was left unwritten, and no matter what he accomplished, that missing piece kept quietly gnawing at him, day after day. One morning, as Daniel sat by the river, lost in thought, he remembered something from his childhood. He recalled old stories about an elder named Eli who lived in a small wooden hut at the edge of the forest. The villagers whispered that Eli was no ordinary old man. They said his words were like a mirror. If you spoke with him, you didn't just get answers. You started to see yourself more clearly than ever before. That single thought sparked a flicker of hope in Daniel's heart. With a newfound resolve, Daniel decided to seek out this wise man. He packed a small bag with some bread and water and set off towards the forest. The journey was longer than he expected. The path grew narrow, winding through ancient trees whose leaves whispered secrets in the wind. After hours of walking, he finally saw it. A small, weathered hut with a thin wisp of smoke curling up from its chimney. An old man with a kind face and eyes that held the wisdom of 1,000 lifetimes was sitting outside, carving a piece of wood. This had to be Eli. Daniel approached cautiously and introduced himself. Eli simply smiled and gestured for him to sit. He didn't ask why Daniel had come. He just sat there, waiting patiently. Finally, Daniel couldn't hold it in any longer. He poured out his heart, explaining his achievements, the respect he'd earned, and the profound, unshakable emptiness that shadowed his every success. He ended by asking, "I've built so much for others, but I feel like I've built nothing for myself. What am I missing?" Eli stopped carving and looked at Daniel. His gaze was gentle yet piercing. "Daniel," he said softly, "you have spent your life building bridges for others to cross, but you have forgotten to build one for yourself." Daniel was confused. "A bridge for myself? What do you mean?" Eli picked up 2 small stones from the ground. He held one in each hand. "This stone," he said, holding up his right hand, "represents everything you do. Your actions, your achievements, the help you give to others. It is heavy and solid. It is your outer world." Then he held up the stone in his left hand. "And this stone," he continued, "represents who you are. Your thoughts, your feelings, your inner peace. It is your inner world elite inside. You have become a master at handling this first stone, but you have neglected the second. True fulfillment, Daniel, is not found in just one or the other. It is found in building a bridge between the two. It's about connecting what you do with who you are." Daniel looked at the 2 stones, and for the first time, he began to understand. All his life he had been focused on doing. He was a fixer, a builder, a helper. He defined himself by his actions. But he had never stopped to ask himself what he truly wanted, what brought him joy, or what his own spirit needed. He was so busy being useful to others that he had become a stranger to himself. Eli continued, "Your feeling of emptiness is not a sign of failure. It is a call from your inner self. It is asking you to come home. It is time to start a new project. Daniel, the most important one of your life. Building the bridge back to you." The old man's words echoed in the quiet forest, and they resonated deep within Daniel's soul. It was so simple, yet so profound. He had been looking for a missing piece outside of himself, when all along, the piece was inside, waiting to be acknowledged. Daniel thanked Eli, his heart full of a gratitude he hadn't felt in years. He didn't leave with a magic solution or a complicated plan. He left with something far more valuable. A new direction. He walked back to the village, not as a man searching for something to achieve, but as a man on a journey to rediscover himself. When he returned, he continued to help his neighbors and fix what was broken. But he did it differently. He started taking time for himself each day. In the mornings, he wouldn't rush to his next task. Instead, he would sit by the river, not to think, but husto be, to listen to the water, to feel the sun on his skin, and to listen to the quiet voice inside him. He started carving wood, not because it was useful, but simply because he enjoyed the feeling of the knife shaping the wood. He learned to play a small flute, filling his evenings with simple melodies that made his own heart feel lighter. Slowly but surely, things began to change. The emptiness didn't vanish overnight, but it began to shrink. It was replaced by a quiet sense of contentment, a gentle joy that came not from praise or accomplishment, but from within. The villagers noticed the change in him. He still had his strength and determination, but now there was a peacefulness about him, a light in his eyes that wasn't there before. He was still Daniel, the man who could fix anything. But now, he had finally fixed the most important thing of all, the disconnect with himself. He had built his bridge. This story about Daniel holds a powerful lesson for all of us. How many of us are like him? We are so busy building our careers, our families, and our reputations, our outer worlds, that we forget to tend to our inner worlds. We measure our worth by our productivity, by our achievements, by the approval of others, and then we wonder why we feel empty. That feeling of emptiness is not your enemy. It's a guide. It's your inner self calling out, asking you to build that bridge, to connect what you do with who you truly are. So, I invite you to ask yourself, what are you doing today to build your own bridge? Maybe it's taking 5 minutes just to sit in silence. Maybe it's revisiting an old hobby you loved. Maybe it's simply asking yourself, what do I need right now? You don't have to abandon your responsibilities or your ambitions. You just have to remember to include yourself in your own life's great project. The journey to fulfillment isn't about adding more to your life. It's about connecting with the part of you that's been there all along. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I hope it brought you some value and a moment of reflection. If it resonated with you, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more stories that aim to inspire and uplift. And I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What is one small thing you can do this week to start building your own bridge? Your journey matters. Thanks again for being here. See you in the next one.